tank looked completely dead. If you're watching this, you'd probably never guess this tank is full of thousands of ancient eggs. Over the next 115 days, dry sand turns into a flood, and that flood wakes up creatures that have survived ice ages, mass extinctions, and droughts that would have killed almost anything else. But not all of them will make it, because once they hatch, they start hunting each other. This tank looks dead, but it isn't. Let's go back to day 1. It started out with an empty tank. I added sand, dragonstone, and a piece of driftwood to build out the layout. Then I dropped in some fossils to add to the prehistoric look. Mixed into that sand were thousands of dormant eggs, triops, fairy shrimp, and clam shrimp, all built to survive years of drought without water, oxygen, or any signs of life at all. Then I did the one thing I struggle with. I left it alone. For 2 weeks, this tank looked completely dead. Flat, dry sand, no movement. If you didn't know better, you'd think I forgot to add anything at all. But underneath the sand, something was surviving the impossible. These eggs can outlast drought, heat, even years of complete darkness, because they're not really alive yet. But they're not dead either. They're kind of just dormant. That's the strange part about this kind of life. It's just waiting for a signal. Out in the real desert, that wait can last years. Some of these eggs can sit dormant for over a decade, holding out for a single storm that might never come. And on day 14, I finally gave mine one. In the wild, this signal comes as a sudden desert rainstorm, the kind that can turn a bone-dry lake bed into a lake in under an hour. So that's exactly what I set out to recreate. I rigged up a simple sprinkler system above the tank to simulate rainfall. Then, I let it go. Water started falling across the dry surface, slow at first, just like the first drops of a real desert storm. Then it picked up, hammering the dry sand, and you could actually watch the water starting to fill the tank. Within minutes, the desert was gone. In its place, a lake. By the next morning, the water was already moving. These tiny white specks are fairy shrimp, some of the first creatures to hatch. They filter feed almost immediately, gliding upside down through the water column. It's strange to think that 12 hours ago, this pond didn't exist at all, and neither did they. But they're not alone for long. This is a triop, prehistoric, practically unchanged in 300 million years. Here's some under a microscope so you can see how small they are right now. And the craziest part about this footage right here is these triops are in less than a drop of water, but over the next 14 days, they're gonna double in size every single day. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, please consider. I literally bought this microscope just to get that one shot, and I'm gonna go broke. All right, back to the video. Triops hatch faster than almost anything else in this tank, and they're hungry. Within hours, they're not just filter feeding, they're hunting. The fairy shrimp population is about to take a hit. And just when it looks like a two-species race, a third contender shows up. Clam shrimp. They look almost like tiny mussels swimming freely, but they're crustaceans, and they compete directly with the fairy shrimp for the same food. Now we have 3 species, 1 shrinking pond, and only so much food to go around. On day 3, the triop numbers are climbing. They're bigger, faster, and eating everything in sight, including other triops. No, he's trying to eat one of the smaller ones. I noticed them starting to establish their territories, patrolling the same stretch of the tank over and over. On day 5, the fairy shrimp numbers are dwindling fast, down to less than 10 of them. But they're finally learning how to evade the triops, staying in open water where they have the upper hand. Day 7, I couldn't find a single clam shrimp. Maybe they were hiding, or maybe they were wiped out, because our apex predators are growing fast, along with their appetites. They know that they don't have long to get to full size and release their eggs before this pond dries up. By day 8, the water level had already started dropping. Evaporation was doing its thing, and in a tank this size, that adds up fast. As the water shrinks, everything left behind gets more concentrated. Less oxygen, higher mineral content. Every animal in here is dealing with a harsher pond than the one they hatched into. And that's the pressure now. Every triop, every fairy shrimp, they're all working against the same shrinking clock. By day 9, the largest triop in the tank had pulled ahead of the others, almost twice the size of her smaller tank mates. I started calling her Queen. Bigger triops cover more ground and dominate the best feeding spots without even needing to fight for them. She found the richest patch of algae and detritus on the substrate, and she wasn't sharing it. Here's something most people don't know. Triops have to molt in order to grow, shedding their entire exoskeleton every few days just to get bigger. For a few hours after each molt, they're soft, slow, and basically defenseless. Meanwhile, the smaller triops were getting squeezed into the picked over corners of the tank. To try and help them, I decided to drop in a piece of food which might give them a little chance to catch up to Queen, because she was ruthless, taking out competition wherever she could. By day 13, I could pick out at least 3 distinct size classes, all from eggs that hatched within a day of each other. Same starting line, wildly different outcomes. The fairy shrimp that survived the early Triops assault weren't just surviving anymore. They were bigger now and strangely more colorful, with flashes of orange running down their swimming legs that weren't there on day 3. Only 7 were left, but 7 that had outlasted an apex predator for over a week were not the same animals that hatched on day 1. This pond had also fallen apart. Out of a population that once numbered in the dozens, I counted just 5 Triops left. And sitting right in the middle of the wreckage, the Queen, still alive, still massive compared to everything around her. Whatever had wiped out the rest of the population, she'd survived it. I still don't know exactly what caused everything to crash, probably a mix of a lot of things all at once. What I do know is the balance of this tank had flipped. With the population gutted, the 7 fairy shrimp weren't just hiding in open water anymore. They were spreading across the whole pond, grazing territory that used to belong to a dozen Triops. On day 25, just about half of the water had evaporated. And one of our Triops was showing major signs of struggle, probably due to a lack of calcium. And calcium is super important when you're molting every few days. So I grabbed 2 pieces of Cuttlebone and scattered them around the tank so the Triops could pick at it. Cuttlebone is made up almost entirely of calcium, so this should give them plenty. But there was another issue. They weren't growing as fast as I'd hoped. I think they were missing some protein. So I grabbed some nutrient-dense bloodworms and dropped them in the tank. Immediately they were attacked by all of the Triops. Now that they had everything they need, they should grow to full size much easier. As I was watching them eat, I noticed something amazing on Queen. She was carrying dozens of eggs. This was the next generation of her bloodline that could sit dormant in the sand and wait for decades for another flood to happen. And she wasn't the only one I noticed. One of the fairy shrimp was carrying eggs as well. Everything was starting to reach maturity. But with delicate species like these, maturity means death is just around the corner. By day 40, the waterline had dropped noticeably. What used to be a full pond was shrinking into something closer to a puddle. We only had 3 Triops left, and the Queen was showing signs that her lifespan was coming to an end as well. Growing the fastest had gotten her to the top early, but her body was clearly paying for it now. And on day 63, the Queen, who started it all, passed away. She grew the fastest and laid thousands of eggs in her short lifespan. For a Triop, she lived an amazing life, doing what she was designed to do. And now the tank looks noticeably emptier than the one I filmed a few weeks ago. The fairy shrimp were holding on, but their expected lifespan was reaching the end as well. And on day 85, a once thriving ecosystem no longer had a single living creature in it. And it was a strange thing to sit with. These animals ran out of time, and even if I kept this pond flooded forever, nothing can change the fact that they all only live for 2 or 3 months max. But buried in the sand right now is everything they left behind. Triop eggs, fairy shrimp eggs, an entire next generation waiting. None of them hatched yet, none of them alive, just sitting in the sand exactly the way this whole thing started. And on day 115, the water was completely gone and our sand was dry. This tank looks dead right now, but it isn't. And that's the amazing part about these animals. They're not built to last. They're built to hand the whole thing off before their own clock runs out, then disappear completely and let the sand do the waiting for them. Make sure to subscribe because one day this sand will be flooded again and a brand new life cycle will begin. Thanks for watching.